Story written by Bob Crusher, read by Grandpa. Do you know what a letter of last resort is? When a prime minister takes office, they must write 4 of them, one for each of the country's ballistic missile submarines. The letters contain orders on what the submarine captains are to do if the government is destroyed in a nuclear attack. They're a sort of dead man switch that deters a first strike against us, an assurance that the last act of the British people will be nuclear retaliation. Frankly, I had always felt they were ghastly things. The rigor mortis of a dead nation, surely the destruction of our enemy, however terrible they may be, would not be worth condemning our planet to nuclear winter. When I first learned of the letters of last resort, I had hoped they contained orders to stand down. I don't hope that anymore. There are worse fates than nuclear holocaust. My uncle was an officer aboard a ballistic missile submarine that carried a letter of last resort. He was a good man and a better sailor. Growing up, I was proud to call him family. That changed in the mid-90s when he entered a sudden depression that led to his dismissal from the Navy. He spent the rest of his days trying to drink himself to death in a flat outside of Liverpool. He succeeded last week. His landlord found him dead, choked on his own vomit, surrounded by cheap laggers. No one in the family was surprised. To most of them, he'd died decades ago. Still, I had fond memories of the man he'd been, so I volunteered to drive to Liverpool to clear out his flat. That's where I found the letter of last resort. It was at the bottom of a shoebox, containing Navy memorabilia. It was not an original. Those are destroyed when a prime minister leaves office. Just a grainy photocopy. That said, I believe it to be authentic. These are its contents, verbatim. Nuclear response contingency. Ensure these conditions are met before continuing. The VLF transmitters at Rugby, Criggion, and Anthorn have not broadcast for 48 hours. BBC Radio 4, LW, has not broadcast for 48 hours. Captain, if you are reading this, the worst has come to pass. The United Kingdom has been destroyed. It now falls on you to carry out the last act of Her Majesty's government. I cannot know precisely what brought about the destruction of our island home. So this letter describes several scenarios and the actions you are to take in response. Britain expects that you will do your duty. The Right Honorable John Major, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Scenario White. Proceed with this scenario if either of these conditions are met. The MOD had placed its installations under Alert State Red or Amber. NATO has declared Counter-Surprise Alert State Scarlet or Orange. An enemy nation has seen fit to destroy us. Writing this letter, I do not know why, but I hope that it was because we, as a nation, stood against tyranny and refused to surrender to it. I will not allow the free world to sink into the abyss of a new dark age. After all, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. I hereby authorize you to execute a retaliatory nuclear strike. You are to launch missiles 1 through 15 and target their warheads at pre-designated population centers in the aggressor nation. You are to hold missile 16 in reserve. Once this mission is complete, you are to place yourself under the command of an allied nation of your choosing so as to carry on the fight. Should no such nation exist, you are to scuttle your vessel and surrender to a neutral nation of your choosing. You and your crew are thereby relieved of duty. as sailors of the Royal Navy. God save the Queen. Scenario Gray. Proceed with this scenario if both these conditions are met. The conditions for Scenario White have not been met. Military transmitter stations across the globe are broadcasting a plain text message with the phrase OMEGA in its header. Captain, this is not the war you expected to fight. Indeed, our home is under attack, but not just our nation, our very planet. An extraterrestrial threat has executed an orbital bombardment of Earth, and the United Kingdom did not survive. We, at the highest levels of government, knew this day would come and took steps to prepare for it. Through great sacrifice, we have come to possess a significant degree of operational and technical information concerning the extraterrestrial threat. We know that it is a singular entity, that it is millennia more advanced than us, and that it is motivated to annihilate us as a species. Our intelligence, such as it is, suggests that within 72 hours of our planet's bombardment, the threat will break orbit and enter our atmosphere. Under no circumstances can it be allowed to make land fall. It had been hoped that the threat would not arrive in our lifetimes, that we might possess more advanced weapons technology when it did. But it seems we will not be afforded that luxury. In cooperation with other military powers across the globe, we have devised a plan to defend our planet with the resources available to us. Several of our partner nations have retrofitted their long-range early warning radar installations, enabling them to track the threat as it approaches Earth. Data from these installations is being processed in hardened subterranean data centers to then be transmitted to military forces across the planet, including ballistic missile submarines via VLF transmitter. In effect, we have devised a planet-wide fire control system that we will use to direct the planet's combined military forces in a single, high-intensity attack on the threat as it enters our atmosphere. Any nation capable of sorting missiles or aircraft, conventional or otherwise, will be directed to participate. The data necessary to target and synchronize your strike with Allied forces is embedded in the Omega broadcasts. You are to commit missiles 1 through 15 to said strike. You are to hold missile 16 in reserve. I will be frank with you, Captain. This will be a close-run thing. Our enemy has traveled between stars to kill us. The defeatist in me says we may as well be tossing spears at a jet fighter, but the optimist in me says a spear will kill a man just as dead as a bullet. Whatever the case may be, I expect you will do your utmost. Britain may be gone, but with its dying breath, her people charge you with the defense of our planet and species. God save the Queen. Scenario Black. Proceed with this scenario if any of these conditions are met. The strike described in Scenario Gray has failed to neutralize the threat. It heartens me to know that in our last moments as a species, we stood as one and did all we could to defend our home. Nevertheless, we have failed. The threat has landed on our planet and will now begin the work of our annihilation. This will not be some brief, impersonal process. It is to be a protracted massacre, designed by an alien intelligence to be as excruciating and undignified as possible. No human atrocity will compare. It is possible your vessel still contains nuclear warheads. Perhaps too many of our radar or transmitter installations were destroyed in the orbital bombardment, and you never received any fire control data. Perhaps our intelligence was inaccurate and the threat arrived ahead of our strike window. Perhaps you simply did not read this letter in time. Whatever the case may be, if you are able, I beg of you, launch your warheads now and euthanize as many of us as you can. You are an officer of the Royal Navy, and so I expect your instincts will be to ignore this order and launch a strike against the threat. I implore you not to listen to that instinct. Our intelligence is unambiguous. Only an overwhelming strike on the threat in its atmospheric entry configuration stands a chance of delivering the megatonnage required to disable it. That opportunity has come and gone. You can do only one thing now, and that is to give us the chance to die with dignity. You are to launch missiles 1 through 15 and target their warheads at global population centers so as to maximize the loss of human life. In the face of what the threat means to do to us, this is a mercy. There is one last duty you must perform, perhaps the most important of any. In this letter, you are to surface your vessel and place Missile 16 in a maintenance configuration such that its warheads can be accessed from the vessel's topside deck. Your engineering officer will inform you that a Vanguard-class submarine is not designed to have its missile tubes accessed while in open waters, and that doing so could irrevocably damage the vessel. Proceed anyways. Once the missile has been exposed from its tube, access the re-entry vehicle. Unlike the other missiles aboard your vessel, Missile 16 does not contain a payload of nuclear warheads. Instead, you will find an unmanned spacecraft of a biomechanical, non-human design. It may appear alarmingly alien, but do not fear. It was grown at a BAE Systems facility in Rochester, Kent. It is as British as your submarine. Place a hand on the spacecraft's carapace and wait for its largest gland to begin vibrating. Then recite the following aloud. My people and planet are dead. We were killed by an entity residing in interstellar space that is hostile to all sapient life. This threat is not an alien society, machine intelligence, or instinct predator. It is a singular, conscious entity of unknown origin that abhors intelligent life. Its only motivation is to inflict maximal suffering on whatever can understand the depth of its malice. The threat has eradicated at least 17 other civilizations in our galaxy. None existed concurrently with one another, but through great sacrifice and forethought, each was able to draw upon the knowledge of its forebears when the threat came for them. The last act of all these societies was to launch a spread of near-light-speed probes towards any star that might one day harbor life. My species recovered one such probe. It contained knowledge from all 17 of the civilizations that came before us. Much of it was technical, describing weapons technologies beyond our industrial capacity to produce. Nevertheless, it greatly accelerated our research into nuclear physics, microelectronics, and rocketry. Most importantly, it contained detailed intelligence on the threat, its strategies, its strike capability, and its blind spots. It was not enough to save our people, but perhaps it will be enough to save yours. Like it was once passed to us, we pass on the torch of civilization to you. This probe is capable of constant acceleration, universal language translation, and high-density data storage. It was not designed by us, but it was built by us. Use the information contained in its storage medium to kill the threat when it finds you. Should you fail, do as we have done and pass on the torch. What follows is technical and operational data we recorded during our first and last military engagement with the threat. At this point, read aloud whatever data is being transmitted on the Omega broadcasts. The data will be encoded in hexadecimal and may take several minutes to recite. Should no such broadcasts exist, summarize the engagement to the best of your ability. Once complete, remove your hand from the spacecraft's carapace and have the missile placed back into a firing configuration. As soon as you are able, launch the missile with its re-entry vehicle set to separate at the apex of its trajectory. Once the contained spacecraft is exposed to vacuum, it will begin accelerating towards an appropriate star. With this last act of defiance, we arm another people, impossibly distant from us in space and time, with the knowledge to succeed where we have not. The last matter to be seen to is yourself and your crew. In a matter of hours, the threat will target your vessel and do to you what it has done to so many others. Preserve your dignity and take your own lives. However you choose to carry out this final order, ensure that catastrophic damage is inflicted to your frontal cortex. Anything less will leave you vulnerable to resuscitation. You and your crew are thereby relieved of duty as sailors of the Royal Navy. God save the Queen. After reading the letter, I told myself that it had to be a fake, some sick joke, but I couldn't convince myself. I knew it was real. I made my way to my uncle's kitchen and helped myself to some of the alcohol that had killed him. I suppose I can't blame the man for retreating into a bottle after he came into the letter. There's no right way to react to learning everything you know has been marked for some unimaginable alien torment. I left the next morning, his flat decidedly unclear. In the months that followed, my friends and family said I'd changed, that there was a profound melancholy about me. They're right. I don't have it as bad as my uncle, but perhaps that's because I wasn't expected to be the executor of mankind's last will and testament. Still, thoughts of that letter consume me. When I watch the news and the Prime Minister comes on, I search for signs that we're both haunted by the same terrible dread. Every so often I think I can see it in the way he speaks about the mundanities of governance. There's something in his tone that says, this is all meaningless in the face of what is coming for us all. More likely, I'm just seeing what I want to. Misery loves company. I suppose that's why I posted this. In the spirit of that misery, I've taken to stargazing. I imagine all those messages in a bottle bouncing between the stars, each one containing the death rattle of a whole people. They're pleading for someone to avenge them. I suspect it won't be long before our own voices join that choir. When I look up at the night sky, all I see is a monster, the corpses of its victims, and a whole galaxy of letters of last resort.